Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of PitchUs. Excited to have Ricardo here presenting his company. My name is Tim Cooley. I'm the author of the Pitch Deck book and one of the founders of PitchUs. Guys, we've got some things exciting happening. We now launched our pitch competitions. They're 1-minute pitches. Get the idea out of your head and just apply. Right now, the prizes range from $500 and above. So, please take advantage of that. We want to see more companies on our platform. Excited to have Jeff with us here as always. Jeff, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. Jeff Erickson, excited to join another episode here of PitchUs. I am with a company called Forecaster that makes financial modeling easy for founders. I'm also an angel investor and startup mentor. So I work with a lot of early stage startups. And we're super excited to hear Ricardo pitch us today. So Ricardo, go ahead. We'll turn things over to you and you can pitch us.
Sure. Thank you, gentlemen. Thanks for all of you. Thank you for your time. As Jeff and Tim said, I'm Ricardo from Silox. And briefly, Silox is a blockchain platform that offers a suite of workplace tools and applications all on one friendly platform. So let me go ahead and share my screen and let's get started.
Great.
Okay. Can you see? Can you all see?
Yes.
Okay, let's get started. So as I said, I'm Ricardo from Silox, and what we're aiming to do is to build a verifiable content data management system suite that prioritizes data security and creates efficiencies with business and data workflows. These efficiencies or lack thereof, or that organizations have data and workflows stored separately. Digital signing companies are very much limited to the signing solutions alone. Organizations require a quick, traceable solution for their contracts and documents. And in the enterprise world, any negligence on contract negotiations can result in penalties. So our goal is to offer professional tools for doing seamless business across departments, organizations, individuals without third-party constraints. Okay, so introducing Silox. Silox is as I said before, a blockchain-based solution that offers a suite of professional workplace applications and tools, all on one user-friendly tech platform. Silox's offerings are inclusive of that it creates workflows based on business cases, customized template creations, contracts can be shared with 2 or more users simultaneously. There's traceability of every step during the contract or document creation process. There are multiple signing options. Examples are e-sign and digital signatures. There's also QR code-based verification. And there is a document vault that can be used to secure your data files and other important documents that you use within the platform. The product synopsis of the Silox platform is that it prevents fraud, it saves time, it protects content, it proves authenticity. There's a document vault, as we said in the previous slide, workflow template creations, and various signature options. Now, as far as the market validation goes, we've secured letters of intent from business owners and organizations. These letters are evidence that users plan to use our platform once it has launched. As far as further market adoption goes, we have structured an integration agreement with a blockchain email platform named LedgerMail, done by the company LedgerFi Solutions. This agreement will allow us to leverage LedgerMail's 500,000 user base to adopt the Silox platform for their digital signing and workflow needs. In return, we'll pay LedgerFi a fee, and this would be very vital with our initial user base, besides any other users, because we'll use LedgerFi as a conduit for Silox. As it stands, most of our competitors are IQAX. They are a multinational blockchain and consulting company. They offer blockchain platforms in the trade finance sector. Also, they're doing some R&D for e-signature suites and those sort of stuff. DocuSign, Google Docs, Acrobat Sign, and also Zoho Sign or vital competitors. We would say our competitive advantage is that we are a young, hungry, innovative co-founding team that is focused on the big picture. This would be discussed in slide 10. Our platform is indeed interoperable. It's a blockchain-based platform that will be built on the Zinfin network that is 8 magnitudes greener than Bitcoin, sorry. So the Zinfin network is 8 magnitudes greener than Bitcoin. I'm sure for all of us ESG advocates, this would be a plus. Our advisory team, that is Young America Capital LLC, they have a vast network of resources that will be vital for us to reach our goals. That's how we met Tim, so it's already yielding dividends. The platform is within the trendy Web3 blockchain industry that is burgeoning in this 2020s decade, post-pandemic. And to be honest, we have a cool brand name. The platform, we would say and we would defend that Silox is a cool name, a trendy name that would intrigue prospects and that would lend them at least a moment to figure out what we have to offer if they are not aware already and how they can use our platform. As far as Silox's total addressable market, it's currently a $4 billion market. It's projected to balloon to $35 billion by 2029 at a compounding annual growth rate of 36.1% during this 7-year period. The source of this information is fortunebusinessinsights.com. When we raise more funding via subsequent rounds after this pre-seed round, we'll scale our efforts by gaining more growth partners, for instance, as we are doing with LedgerMail, to increase our revenue figures. The goal is not to be a cash cow company, but rather an innovative, adequately funded tech platform that generates revenue and still has tremendous growth potential. These factors are key for our exit strategy, as the goal is to be acquired via a private sale and M&A. For example, Cerner, Linode, and MailChimp, those are some famous M&As that closed within the last couple of years. Or a public sale, a SPAC or IPO, example, Snowflake or Agile Group. Snowflake is in the data warehousing business. They had a very substantial IPO a few years ago, and Agile Growth is a special acquisition company. They raise money to make acquisitions in the software as a service and platform as a service markets, the same markets that we are participating in. Our business model is subscription-based model, for small to medium enterprises and professionals. And the other business model is for the software platform to be used as a service for enterprise clients. This platform would be customizable, interoperable, and scalable. Now, our funding requirements, we are requesting $1 million via a safe note in pre-seed funding, a pre-money valuation of $2.5 million, and we expect to close by the end of February. The funding would be used as followed: $239,000 for full-scale platform development, $75,000 for infrastructure, $41,000 for the LedgerMail integration and 12-month license fee, $300,000 for co-founder salaries, $120,000 for business development, $100,000 for unforeseen expenses and advisor fees, and $125,000 for platform upgrades and maintenance. Note that this would cover a 24-month runway for us to operate. That's what this $1 million in funding would cover. The aforementioned expenses, itemized expenses, and it would be for a total of 24 months, 2 years. Now, these would be the projections and milestones for our first year. We aim to operate in stealth mode for the first year until the platform is fully built in its totality, and then we would launch it. In the first 3 months, we aim to finish the e-sign aspects of the platform, Then within 6 months, the dynamic template aspects of the platform. In 3 months after that would be the digital signature aspects of the platform. And then in 12 months in total, we aim to make a final release, subsequently coming out of stealth mode. Now, this is an interesting sheet that we figured we should add. It's a prospective funding and revenue exit scenario sheet. After coming out of stealth mode for a year, this 4-year funding and revenue projection scenario is just presented as a probable guide of what the Silox platform could do within a favorable Web3 blockchain platform as a service, software as a service market. As we mentioned earlier, within the first 2 years, 1 year operating in stealth mode, and the other year we would be operating our first year out of stealth mode, with a scenario that we have 150,000 to 250,000 USD in annual recurring revenue. And in the third year, after raising 3.5 million at a $31.5 million pre-valuation with a probable revenue of $500,000 to $1 million annual recurring revenue. In the third year, after raising 50 million, 7.5% investors' equity at a pre-money valuation of 185 million, a probable revenue of 2 million to 5 million in annual recurring revenue. And then a fourth year, raising 30 million at a post-money valuation of 600 million, having annual recurring revenues between 5 to 10 million. Within the fourth year of operating, 5 total years since initial funding, the goals of having an adequately funded revenue-generating tech platform were reached. Now, given that the $4+ billion total addressable market percentage that we've captured is still, substantially small and quite scalable, which tech buyers love, this should be the time for our advisory team to entertain and procure a company sale offer via an M&A or an IPO or a SPAC. Our core team, you guys met me. I'm Ricardo McCarty. I'm the acting CEO, and Sandeep Kumar is my co-founder. He's the CTO. We have been working together in tandem since January 2019. Together, we have built a tremendous synergy. We have a very dynamic team. We work remotely. We've done a suite of projects together, and this proof of concept that we've dubbed Silox, we'd say it's the culmination of our working relationship. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. That brings us to the end of the pitch. Looking forward to the feedback, looking forward to your thoughts. Thanks again.
Awesome, thanks so much. Yeah, so let's just dive into it. Jeff, what are some of the things that you really like, and can you unshare as well?
Oh yeah, if you want to unshare the
screen
here.
Okay.
Okay, good job, Ricardo.
Thanks.
I thought that you had the talking points down, and you were able to kind of go through the flow there. You had a lot of the pieces where you had, you went through the competition, kind of the market, the size and that. I think we can help out on identifying the problem a little bit better. There's some things I think we can go through there. I thought your detailed use of funds, I think you detailed that maybe too much, to tell you the truth. But I'm glad to know that you know your numbers and what it will be used for. But again, those are things I think we can kind of go through as we provide you some feedback.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. I think it's clear you've done your research on the market at hand, at least from a numerical point of view. So I think that stuff's really good. You're really easy to listen to, so that's another plus. And so, but I do think there's some areas that we really need to focus on in helping the presentation as a whole. And so let's just dive right into that. Jeff, why don't you kick us off?
Okay. No, so first off, and I'm going to just share this from an investor perspective of, listening to the pitch and taking it in. First time I've seen this. Honestly, I had a hard time. First off, the screen was super small. And so that was hard. I think one thing to keep in mind is if when you're on your phone, what that comes across to, if you're pitching in an online scenario, Tim and I normally talk about font size, but this makes it so it's even much, much smaller than your typical presentation. And so even if your font size was adequate at 22, 24 point font, it was so small here that we couldn't read it. So that was one thing that, that you want to address is if you have a way to present this on a computer, it's going to present better going forward. But as we get into the overall presentation, one of the things I didn't come away with, even at the very end, was, what is the problem this is solving? Why wouldn't I just use DocuSign and a couple other things? I did hear you say that, this is a single source, and so you can put all this stuff together, but I don't think you established the problem from the outset to the point where you could clearly articulate the rest of the message on why this is so important. And so that would be the first thing that I would address, is defining and understanding the problem and explaining that to me as an investor as to this is why there's a problem out here. Because I came away thinking, okay, I know who your competitors are. Why can't I just use this? And then you did have one slide that goes into your competitive advantages, but it still didn't totally tie all of that in together for me. And so that's something I would definitely work on. One thing we have seen, this for the benefit of those watching, is if you can do a really good job explaining the problem and articulating that and getting the investors to buy in to say, oh, yes, that is a problem that needs to be solved, the rest of your whole presentation goes so much better. So definitely work on focusing on that.
Let me add to that, Jeff, real quick. So one of the things you added here was fraud, right? And you could potentially, and I don't know the data, is build an entire use case of a digital platform, a digital signing platform, around fraud. And so you could build that as your problem statement. I don't know if that's what it is. You did mention it, but theoretically, let's make up some numbers. You could say, look, the problem with current solutions is fraud, where 20% of contracts are getting signed through these fraudulent elements. Therefore, we built our thing. That's how you could really build this from a very single problem statement.
Yeah, great points, Tim. And so I think if you can kind of do that and establish what the real problem is that you're solving, I think that will set the stage for the rest of your presentation. The other thing that I'm looking for as an investor is some sort of traction. And you mentioned that you had some LOIs. So, but you kind of left us there that you basically said we have some letters of intent. So they're going to use this once we build this product. I don't know how many, I don't know who it is. It could have been your brother who said, hey, I'm going to use this as soon as you build it. We didn't have anything to go off of. So in my mind, there was no traction. I had no idea if there was anything at all other than there's a few LOIs floating out there somewhere. So I would definitely see what you can do to establish that you have some traction. And at this stage where you're trying to build it, that was the other thing that was hard for me as an investor. I was thinking, man, this thing is all conceptual at this point. I don't see what has been built and tested. I really felt like when we got to by the time we got to your ask slide, that we were just asking for 2 years of salary for you guys to go build this. and you know, I wasn't confident that you know, anything other than we have this idea that we want to go build. But I guess it just didn't come across as something that would give me confidence as an investor that, one, you have traction, or that two, it's something that I could put my money behind at this point.
Yeah, let me add to that. So we do get a lot of entrepreneurs, Jeff and I work with tons of people who are in the ideation phase, and there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, some people do raise capital in ideation, but they come in with some really strong traction elements, and that can be background. I'll just go into this. We don't know who you are, what you've done in your past. One of the things that we recommend is kind of starting that way, right? Like, you know, I've done this thing and been in this space for 20 years or whatever it is, and then I noticed these things. And so if you're in, and this goes for those listening, if you're in that ideation phase where you do need the capital, it's much, much harder to get the funding that you're looking for. It's not impossible, but you do have to come in with some traction, and that's got to be, I was in consulting for 20 years. I was doing something for a long time, and I know a bunch of people. Like, you got to come up with something that says, this is the team worth betting on. Or the other thing is, you've got to find the group of investors who know that industry incredibly well and be like, yes, I want to build this as well, right? So Jeff's an investor. If I came to him with some idea that he wanted to build himself but didn't have the time, the likelihood of him investing in me could be really, really high. Because he's like, man, I want to build this too. So keep those in mind. If you guys are in that ideation phase, those are really the only two ways of getting funding. But you still have to have these other elements as well.
Yeah, and Tim, just to build off of that, I mean, it goes partly back to your team slide, Ricardo. You can start out with your background on why you want to solve this problem and what qualifies you. But then, and I was waiting for that to kind of happen at your team slide, and I still didn't really get it. So what I heard from the team slide was that you and Sandeep have worked together in the past, and you've had some experience in blockchain. But beyond that, I didn't catch really what qualified you and your background to be the one to build this, or Sandeep. And so I think if you could drill into that and say, you know, things like Sandeep's been an engineer at Microsoft for the last, 10 years and is the head of this and does this, just to establish some credibility, because we really didn't get to know you or Sandeep in this presentation. I think that's a critical element, especially at this stage, where we're betting that the two of you are going to, over the next year, develop this project.
Yep.
Good, Jeff.
Okay. I just had a couple more things, Tim, then I'll just kind of hand it off to you. But the other thing I noticed on a couple of the slides, there were a lot of words, and like even your market, like where you talked about your TAM, the total addressable market. You talked to it really well. But when I was looking at the slide, it had like 3 paragraphs of just total text. That's a great example of a slide where you can use some graphics and still talk to it and say, this is what the market looks like, without distracting me trying to read 3 paragraphs of text. So, and I think there were a couple others. The appendix slide you had, just there's no way that we could read, that text on that slide. There was a lot of it, and it was very small. And so be cognizant of that as you're, keep in mind that as you're speaking to the slides that you're presenting, your investors, you don't want to distract them from what you're saying by having them try to look at your slides and try to read, all of this text. It can be really distracting that way. So be cognizant of that as you're creating your slides.
Great. All right. So some other things that we can help you with here is be very careful. So I want to point this out. You had all the right slides, but I will say that the information that wasn't presented wasn't the information that we wanted to hear on most of them, right? So the market slide is good, but then you kind of over talk a lot of the points. Same with your ask slide. You went into the details where we can read that. Well, if the slide was bigger, we could read it. But so all you need to say is, look, we're raising $1 million. Here's the terms of the deal. You know, love to chat with you guys more. So you can be a lot more brief and leave data on the slides if it's easy for us to read, right? One thing you mentioned, and these are semantics, and they're really important. You use the word "our goal." I call that a hope slide. What you're going to say is what you're solving. Like, you're not hoping. Your goal isn't to do anything. You are doing something, right? We're making businesses have less fraud in their signing, right? I'm going to go back to this problem statement. So remove those hope phrasing. A lot of this is in the book, actually. So I don't know if you've read the book or not, but really take a look at that, because it talks about like see future slide. You literally had on there, see slide number 10. You're going to get to slide number 10. You don't need to preface it, right? And that entire slide, hungry entrepreneurs, those kinds of things, in reality, they're really red flags. We know you're hungry if you've called 10,000 people yesterday and you got 500 of them to sign up. Like, I can tell you're hungry. You don't need to tell me, right? Like, we did this whole thing without raising a dime. I get you're hungry. Those are the traction proves that statement. So think about that. Think about what you're telling us and showing us at the same time. You mentioned cool name as a competitive advantage, and it's not, right? It's this really big red flag. And I just want to point that out because I will say your deck is actually very common in first entrepreneur decks, the way that this was laid out. We could have swapped name and some other things. And honestly, Jeff, you could probably say this. You've probably seen 10 decks like this in the last month. But it's not, it really distracts from what we're trying to do, because we're trying to get to know you in the market. So you don't need those filler things. You've got the confidence to present. Now put the right information in there, and then we get even more excited. You show us you're hungry by the number of phone calls that you made. As far as some more technical things on business model, you need to have price there. It wasn't on the slide. I looked really hard for it. Those, even if you don't know what you're charging yet, just make up a number. It doesn't matter right now, right? You just want to show, because that's how you're going to build your market slide in the future. And if you need help with that, check out things like Forecaster. That's really what they're for. And then end on the ask slide. I'll just end with this one because it's so important. Jeff and I we're so used to a cadence of these decks, and lots of people have presented. So when you go through the ask slide and then you kind of ramp back up into, I can't remember what was after it, team or something like that, we're ready to start asking questions, and then you kind of like confuse us a little bit. So I would suggest, and the ask is my favorite slide. And so end on that ask slide, combine it with your contact me slide, and just leave that slide up, and then let us ask you some questions. That was a lot, but this is a really great place to start. If I'm being real honest with you, it's a great starting place. You've got all the elements. Now you got to take that 100 times further. And so with that, Jeff, let's ask the question. Based off of what we heard today, would you take this company into due diligence?
Yeah, I think you already know the answer, just because I still didn't understand the problem that you were solving that is going to warrant you to build this out. And I think if you can establish that, and that you're the right team to do that, that's going to give me more confidence. At this stage, in the ideation stage where you're, establishing that, confidence is your investor confidence is going to be what gets you the funding. And I think that you've got the elements there. I don't think it was portrayed in the presentation. And so I think there's some work you can do that will get you to that point.
Yep, and I'm going to agree. So today it's a no, but like we say with a lot of our people, please follow up. You're about 6 months away, in my opinion, from really defining that problem state. Maybe it's tomorrow. Maybe you actually know, you just didn't present it today. But I think, like Jeff said, really define that problem and be critical about who the buyer is of that problem. It'll build the rest of your deck for you.
Agreed.
All right. Well, Ricardo, thank you so much.
I really appreciate your feedback on everything, Tim.
Yeah, you're welcome. We love doing this. I mean, we want more and more people to start to present better, because again, you're not the only one.
But Ricardo, what you're going through, every entrepreneur goes through. And so, you know, you are having this out there to where others can learn from this is super valuable to other entrepreneurs, because this is not unique to you. Everybody goes through this, and it's like, oh, okay, I can make things a little bit better. And that's part of being an entrepreneur, is getting feedback and learning and reiterating and just kind of going through that feedback loop.
And one more thing before I wrap up, I want to say is we look for as as investors in coachability, right? What do you look like 3 months from now, and then 6 months from now, and a year from now? And I will tell you, the majority of the investments that I've done or seen come from an initial conversation like this. And we follow that entrepreneur for the next 2 years, and it may not be this idea, it might be their next one. And then we're like, I have to bet on you because you are hungry and you've proven it. So keep crushing is what I got to say. And I really appreciate you being here. But with that, let's wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for paying attention. You know, if you guys haven't, check out the book, PitchUs. It has all the elements you need and why they're so important. And if you're looking for help with your funding or from the finance side, check out Forecaster. It's a really great tool. The team over there is amazing. And we can't speak highly enough of them. And so thank you guys all for being here.